Our next lecturer is Mr. Aleksandar Ivančić from Spain. Title of his lecture is Near 100% Renewable Energy Power System, a case of St. Helena Island. It sounds very interesting.
Exotic place.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I'm asked to speak in English, but I just want to say hello to everybody na srpskom. Dakle, hvala puno na pozivu da budem danas sa vama. Hvala za ovu lepu priliku. Ja, kao što ste rekli, živim i radim u Španiji već 25 godina, ali ja sam beogradski đak, dakle Mašinski fakultet, termotehnika, profesor Brana Todorović, diplomski na solarnoj kući u Ceraku, davne 88. kod profesorke Marije Todorović. Dakle, after that, I can switch in English again and continue the presentation of the project. I mean, this is a kind of integration project. It's not a single technology or single energy source, as we heard previous presentation. However, here the idea is to go with a real scale system, small one, but real scale in operation, and to enrich the power system, to push it to near 100% renewable power system. Why is it interesting to push it near 100%, especially in remote islands, as the case of Santa Helena? In these cases, the energy is really very, very expensive. I mean, their system, as we are going to see, is based on diesel power generation, so conventional gensets. And then the diesel fuel is coming from mainland, some, let's say, 5,000 kilometers away. So the energy is becoming very, very expensive. So besides all the ecological or other kind of reasons, here we have the main reason, which is actually social reason and the cost of the energy for the local population. Okay, so Santa Helena Island. Oh, this is just a brief summary of the presentation. I'm going to speak just briefly about the island itself, then about the present situation of the power system, later on the resources, renewable resources, and the technological and economical suitability of those possibilities. Then some scenario optimization and looking through the possibilities, and finally some conclusions. So here is our island. We are somewhere, let's say, 1/3 of the way from Namibia-Angola border to Rio de Janeiro. It's 2,000 kilometers away from the mainland, and the single way to arrive there is by a Royal Mail ship. It's about 5-day trip. It's a combined cargo and passengers vessel. So in the front, containers, including diesel fuel, and the passengers on the rear part. Actually, this island, this tiny island, is known only, I would say, for the Napoleon, because Napoleon died here after the first exile in Elba Island, from where he escaped. Then British put him here. This is British territory, and he finished in this tiny island. In that time, it was not so remote actually, because before Suez Channel was open, all the main routes, marine routes from Europe to Asia to China, go this way to Cape Town. So in order to short the way from Cape Town to Europe, this was actually the shortest way. So Santa Helena was quite an important logistic place to refuel, I mean, the food and water especially. Okay, so we are talking about an island which is 120 square kilometers in surface, some 4,500 inhabitants, so very tiny population, and with, I would say, marine tropical climate, mild climate, which is also important in terms of energy consumption, energy demands from the population, which is roughly some 2,000 kilowatt hours per inhabitant per year. And with the peaks in the system of about 2.1, 2.2 megawatts of power. So very, very tiny actually system. Okay, so this is a couple of images of this nice island. I mean, it's interesting because on the peaks, which are some 800 meters above the sea level, there is a very, very abundant, tropical vegetation, and almost 30% or even a bit more of endemic species of all the British territories all over the world, including Great Britain, are situated, are placed in this tiny place. So it's worth protecting from ecological point of view also. Okay, this is the kind of demand pattern we produced after the analysis of the information we get from the local government there. And this is a kind of power demand in terms of hours per day and for 365 days around the year. The share is mainly domestic, which is more household, more or less 50%. Then commercial, tertiary use, some governmental, which is very important, 10%, and the internal consumption of the system itself. This looks like this on the daily pattern, more or less. This is one of the, let's say, quite exemplary days. Then we have two peaks, the most pronounced one about 7 o'clock in the evening, and then also around 9, 10 o'clock another peak. This is important in order to manage our stochastic renewable sources and to see how can we cope with the storage capacity. So the power generation presently is made of 7.6 diesel generators, quite common and ordinary. Almost 1 megawatt of wind power, that is, let's say, quite old technology, not like we just heard from our colleague. It's 2 blades generator turbine, a Dutch product with some 80 kilowatts rated capacity each one. We have 12 of these. And the trick is that with this kind of 2-blade turbine, the cutout speed is not 25 to 30 meters per second as in modern turbines, but about 16, 17 meters per second. So we are losing quite an important part of the wind capacity with this kind of technology. And some solar. In time we produced this study and this research a year and a half ago. It was just 86 kilowatts of PV, but immediately after that they put in operation 500 kilowatts of PV more. So the question was, how should we behave or perform in order to reach 100% of renewable energy system? That was the question by the government. By the way, they asked to do that in 2 to 3 years, which is quite a challenge. We start then analyzing the resources. This is a kind of typical IRENA, International Renewable Energy Agency, pattern of, let's say, classifying sites and places when you check the availability of resources. And we concluded for wind we have some sites which are very, very good, some which is medium good, and some, let's say, you can hear the distinguish between the wind speeds, various speeds. Then in terms of solar, we arrived to the conclusion that we are in some kind of mid-range resource availability, because even it's in the relatively near equator, it's there is a lot of clouds in some parts of the island. After that, we realized that we don't have a really good situation for hydropower, but we think that it may be, we thought at that time that it may be interesting for storage, and we're going to see in a moment the results of that. Biomass, very limited, and wave power, of course, interesting, but still immature technology. And for this kind of place, when we don't have, we can put there some kind of technological institute or research institution. There is no capability and technical knowledge to push for this kind of technology, at least at the moment. So in kind of summary about the technological suitability, we compared different, of course, different criteria, which is actually, I would say, the most interesting part of this project, means how to cope with different criteria you need to put in your equation in order to realize which is the most optimal mix. So to make a long story short, just to say that we realize that for Sveta Helena case we can operate with solar and with wind power, and for hydro we can use it for reversible. We can use it for energy storage in a way, using reversible or pumped hydro storage. Okay, looking for the sites, interesting sites for put some solar panels near the airport or near the waste dump site, not in the protected area, of course. Some criteria to realize which one would be the most optimal of the three sites we was offered in that moment there, and we checked, I mean, the space, solar radiation, of course, I mean, proximity of the other uses, road access, which is in this case very interesting, or important criteria, environmental sensitivity, terrain grading, additional costs, and short-term availability of the place. So we realized that we have one of those which is very interesting, and we can put there quite a lot of PV installations. Then the next question was how can we cope with these, let's say, non-manageable renewable resources, because both solar and wind are stochastic, so we should storage in some way. We performed quite an extensive analysis of different technologies, starting from most conventional, which is pumped hydro storage, means hydro, till flywheels, I mean air compression, different kind of technologies, and come to the conclusion that we can only realistically deal in this case with pumped hydro storage and with batteries, which may be lead acid, nickel, nicotinium, or lithium ion. Okay, for siting, for storage, if you are talking about batteries, it's no problem at all. Just standard, you can deal even with the standard containerized solutions. But if you are talking about the pumped hydro storage, that was really a challenge to find the right place in this island. Means in terms of head, you need, I mean, high difference in order to really use gravity force. You need to avoid any kind of environmental damage, environmental problem. You need to be relatively close to the power grid. And yeah, that was the real challenge. So finally, we find here is the existing power production, power central, kind of valley. Here the difference in the level. So we realize that there is a place, quite interesting place, where we can put the upper reservoir, and the other one, the lower part, which is what's ecologically sensitive at all. And even the natural orography is, let's say, favorable for digging and making, let's say, easier to make easier the construction works. So this is the area we finally choose, of course, the local authorities for storage, and down there would be the lower reservoir and the power production is down here. There is also one of the main lines, power lines, which is going through this area, so we can connect relatively easily down there. We performed system modeling and simulation with Energy Pro. This is just 1 week as an example. And then with this simulation model, we ask ourselves which is let's say, the energy cost with different technologies of storage. Because we need to decide whether to go for batteries or for pumped hydro storage. We see here very easily for 2 scenarios, I mean 80% renewable system or 95% renewable system. Batteries are becoming more and more expensive when move to higher capacity of the storage. It's easier to just for very small capacities. We are above the threshold of more or less 3 megawatt hours. Then we are much more competitive with the pumped hydro storage. In the same sense, we checked the, let's say, the size of the storage versus percentage of the fossil fuel, which are still going to need. I'm going to explain why we push for this. We use still some fossil fuel, and we realized that somewhere about 30 megawatt hour storage. We are coming, let's say, operating less of 5% of fossil, and we are going for 95% scenario. Okay, so this is the reason why we are talking about nearly 100% and not this 100%, which is also political goal and kind of achievement, which looks very good in the newspapers. But as you see, this is not our result. It's our result that we follow the example. If you are pushing increasing the renewable energy penetration in your system, it comes to some point which is about 90%, 90+%. In exponential growth of the price of your energy in your system. Why is that? Because the last kilowatts of power you need to put in your system is becoming very expensive because this increases your power capacity needs and also your storage capacity needs. So if you're cutting somewhere here, you're keeping very low energy electricity cost in your system. If you push for 100%, then you're going to, let's say, penalize your clients, your users. So this is our results. This is one of the curve about the power capacity and power demand from the system in all of the 8,760 hours a day. So we are leaving this kind of 5% to be covered by gensets, individual gensets, and we are trying to cover actually this part of our curve by renewable energies. Then we try to make different scenarios using wind technology, only hybrid or only wind. I mean, we have enough time now to mention about the particular crisis of this technologies on the island, because of the cost of the transport and the remoteness of the island. We use different kind of power we need, and okay, thanks. And so we are talking about 6 megawatts of wind or 6.5 megawatts of PV, and there is also intermediate scenarios hybrid. We are talking about 22 megawatt hours of storage with let's say, reversible Francis turbine of 3 megawatts. The result, okay, just a second, sorry. Okay, the results, I mean, we compare the investment, capital investment and operational, means maintenance and energy cost. We realized that actually in this case clearly solar solution is quite much interesting than any other. In terms of Earth internal return ratio of investment, we are somewhere at 20, almost 30%, which is quite a good business in a way. So, okay, just concluding, for this case, we consider that even if the capital expense and initial investment is relatively high, not very high, but relatively high, there is a very short payback period, and it's a good business in a way. Multi-criteria approach was very important, not just technological and economical, but also environmental and local labor capacities, which are in this case very limiting factor. Okay, so we come to the conclusion that PV is most suitable technology, and that the very conventional storage, which is pumped hydro storage, was also the best option. So it's not recommendable to go to 100%, but rather for a bit lower percentage of the of the energy supplied by renewables. And well, that was our conclusion, and I'm happy and proud to say that the project is, our plan is under construction now. Thank you very much.
I didn't get it, but which part of the renewable energy produced from wind or solar you supply directly to the grid? Or you would say
all what we are producing is actually supplied to the grid.
directly to the grid, or,
Yes.
or storage before supply?
Well,
That's the question.
it depends on the demand. I mean, there is a small detail that I skipped in this presentation. We also introduce some technologies to improve grid stability, which is necessary. Yeah, but no enough time to explain this now. Maybe we can comment it later. Yeah, you're right. I mean, the idea is to, of course, to look for a grid stability, and but an important part is provided directly to the grid. That's all. Thanks.